Hi, good evening. Welcome to Side-Eye in the City, episode 10?
10.
9 or 10, whatever.
I think
Whatever.
it's 10. It's 10.
I think it's 10. Although I think when I sent out the link, I said 9. So, episode 10. Welcome, everyone. Oh, I have a wayward curl. Again, try to ignore that. Anyway, hi, everybody. Welcome. This is Tamika, your host. And I have with me this week Chris, all the way in Detroit. Hey, Chris.
Hey, everybody.
And we are Side-Eye in the City, and we're having episode 10. So
Yeah.
yay!
Yay.
Weed and patchouli oil.
Yes.
And casual racism. Oh,
Casual
and
racism.
time traveling slavery. So this should be a fun, upbeat episode.
Yes, yes. Casual racism, blatant racism, ignorant racism. We've got it all.
We do it all, folks, and we do it for you. So how are you doing this week, Miss Chris?
I really haven't. I would never consider myself an angry black woman. I'm generally pretty happy, but this week I've been a little irritated. So
Why would you be irritated? Haven't you learned that racism is solved and women are equal? All women?
all of us, especially you brown and gay ones that we fought with you before. Oh, I'm sorry.
So, let me get everybody caught up before we start going in.
Yes.
Okay, so raise your hand if you watched the 2015 Oscars this year. Right. I didn't watch either. I didn't watch that mess.
No. For what?
Exactly. However, there was a bit of a kerfluffle when one Miss Patricia Arquette won. I guess she won Best Actress, I think, for her role in Boyhood, which is, in a nutshell, it's the movie that they shot over like 12 years. So I guess she won an Oscar for, I don't know, being on camera for 12 years, whatever. I don't know. Supposedly the movie's good, but whatever. That's not the point.
No.
So, in her acceptance speech, Miss Arquette decided to make a stand for pay equality and equal pay for women who work. Which on its surface, hey, good. All right, good thing, good going.
Yes, way to go.
So she made her Oscars acceptance speech, and let me try and find the text. Bear with me just a moment. I wish I had the audio, but let me see if I can find the text, and I can just read it to you guys. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so this is what she said on stage. And this is a quote. "It's time for all the women in America and all the men that love women and all the gay people and all the people of color we fought for to fight for us now." This is what she said. Actually, I think this is the one she said.
That's backstage.
Yeah, that's what she said off stage when she was being interviewed after her acceptance speech.
Yes.
But there has been a bit of an uproar about her speech.
Exactly.
I'm trying to find the words to her original speech, so bear with me just a second.
The original speech wasn't as problematic. It was okay. It was just kind of like, okay.
I mean, it wasn't as blatantly problematic as her offstage speech, but
Right.
it was problematic. And let me find the article on that too.
While you're searching, I'll just say that what's most problematic for me is that for whatever reason, if African American women disagree with anything that is said, then we're viewed as being angry and picking fights and always so mad about everything, and why can't you all just be happy? And I don't understand why that is. Why can't we don't have to like everything that's said, and just because you said something with good intentions doesn't mean that we have to like it, and it shouldn't come against the character of all black women simply because you said, hey, I don't like that.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, so there's that. So basically, let me see, I think I found it. Hold on.
Okay.
My internet is a bit slow, so my apologies that it's taking me forever. But I think this is it. Okay. So, okay. trying to, why? Jesus. Okay, I can't find it. Never mind. I like time.
Well.
Technology hates me. Sorry.
No worries.
But one of the articles I read was actually about her speech that she gave on stage, pretty much saying the same thing. Women have fought for everyone for so long, and now it's time for everyone else to fight for us, which was, in a nutshell, which is what she said. Mm-hmm. And I think what started a lot of the uproar, and she totally started this herself, whether she meant to or not, is she set up this whole us-them dichotomy.
Yes.
And I mean, that's basically what she said when she said, we fought for everyone else, now it's time for everyone else to fight for us. So number one, who's we? Number two, who's us?
Exactly.
Number three, what is this fighting that you speak of?
Yes.
Because anyone who's read any of the history of American feminism will quickly learn that first wave feminists, especially, did not fight for women of color.
No, not at
all. Women
of
color, in particular, were especially excluded. And Imani Gandhi actually covered this a little bit in her Angry Black Lady blog and on her Twib segments, basically talking about how the history of the women's movement intersected with abolitionism, and how for a while, yes, these two movements were pretty much feeding each other. The training ground for one was sort of the training ground for the other.
Okay.
However, when interests diverged was when the men of the abolitionist movement were pretty much advocating for the vote for black men, and the women of the women's movement, the white women, white middle class women, were advocating for the vote for women, but nobody was advocating for women of color. Like, right. Both groups specifically excluded women of color. And then later on, as the movement moved forward, they specifically, women, white feminists, they only advocated for, because they weren't even advocating for all white women. That's another misconception, is when white feminists, first wave white feminists, when they were advocating, they weren't really advocating for all white women. They were advocating specifically for upper middle class, educated white women.
Okay.
Poor white women, screw them. Not interested. Immigrant white women, screw them. Not interested.
That's fine.
They only advocated for them when they realized that, oh, well, once we get jobs, we'll need someone to care for our children. That is specifically when they brought in lower class women and immigrant women, still white lower class and immigrant women, gotcha, into the struggle for women's rights. So, and this is a problem that has been, I mean, again, it's been an issue within the women's rights movement since the very beginning. It's baked in. It's structural. Okay. It's always been exclusionary. And Miss Arquette, her statements, even though she didn't mean to, she really sort of gave voice to that very exclusion, that historical exclusion that black feminists have been talking about, again, since Sojourner Truth and Ain't I a Woman. That's exactly what the hell she was talking about.
Exactly.
So what Patricia Arquette did, unwittingly, because I don't think she woke up that day and said, I'm going to say some racist shit on the Oscars. I really don't think that was her intention at all.
I don't think so either.
Right. But what she did was actually, number one, she accidentally revealed herself.
Oh,
number
absolutely.
one.
Absolutely.
Right. And number two, she actually demonstrated and gave voice to a long-standing history of exclusion and racism within American feminism. Mm-hmm. And it's something that black women, again, have been talking about for at least 200 years, but nobody heard us. So nope. Now she goes on the Oscars and screws up, and everybody has an uproar. And the first thing we get labeled with is being divisive, being angry, tearing apart the women's movement, messing up progressivism and all that. And it's like, no, there is a history here that nobody seems to
care about.
Want to recognize.
Care about.
Right, exactly. So even her speech on stage, and I read this in a blog, actually it was a blog by one of my mentors, one of my professors at UTD, who's white, by the way. And she pointed out that her speech, her on-stage speech, what she said on stage, which unfortunately I can't find the text to when I need it, But basically, like, her speech on stage even was problematic because that's where she began to set up this whole us-them
right
duality. So, and she had time to prepare that. Now, you can make the argument that what she said off stage was sort of off the cuff,
right
and she just, she was clumsy in her phrasing and in her framing, and she didn't really mean to say what she said. You could make that argument for what she said off stage, in the press interview off stage, but what she said in her acceptance speech on stage, on live television, she prepared that. She wrote it down on cards. So you thought about this bullshit, and then you read it.
Because
so what does that tell you?
That's what she did. She didn't mess up. She said exactly what she thinks.
Exactly.
Which we've fought for you. Now you need to fight for us. There was no bumfungling. There was no juggle. There was no misinterpretation. She said what she was trying to say, and we heard her. And and we're no longer.
In a nutshell is, we fought for you niggas. Now it's time for you to fight for us.
Exactly. Where for me,
my language, but that's what she
said. But what? There's so many things wrong with this. Number one, as I keep pointing out to several people, saying that we fought for you implies that our fight is over.
Exactly.
And I'm certain that Trayvon Martin, his mother, Eric Garner, all these people who have recently not been given all types of human rights would differ. I don't believe our fight is over. So to them say, hey, drop your fight because my shit is way more important, only further validates the, when my white problem is an issue and I have this platform to stand on and say, forget whatever you are talking about and come join this fight because I'm done with you. I'm over it. So come on down, So then when you jump into the backstage comments of when she actually
really stepped in it. Yeah.
you didn't, it wasn't an implication. You picked two groups and you mentioned them, not us. We didn't do that. You said people of color and the lesbian, gay, trans community. Okay, so you pick two groups and then you don't expect them to speak up.
Right.
Why? Because you're white, because you're a woman, because you make more money than us, because you're winning an award at the Oscars. Like, why do we not deserve an opinion about what you said? Because you thought you were saying something good? Well, it kind of came out messed up. So we're entitled to have an opinion about that. And we're the, like you said, the angry black women. Oh, no. So I'm over it, really over it.
Right. And then even to further pick up on what you said, she was even wrong in her statement. I mean, yes, there were first wave feminists that were also involved in abolition.
Indeed.
Right. But there were also first wave feminists that freely and willingly and gladly aligned with white supremacists.
Absolutely.
When they were advocating for, prohibition, they actually willingly linked with the KKK. Yep. A lot of people don't know that. So for her to say, "Oh, we fought for you," it's kind of disingenuous. It's not entirely honest. Like, again, yes, there were feminists who were also abolitionists, and there were feminists who were also involved in the civil rights movement. Yes. However, there were also feminists linked to the KKK. There are also feminists who, when black abolitionists were advocating for suffrage, and white feminists were advocating for suffrage, they both got together and was like, forget black women. Forget it. So this fight that she's alluding to, it's not as simple as she's trying to make it out to be. The movements aren't hand in hand. You know what I'm saying? To be a first wave or second wave feminist does not automatically mean that you are also not a racist. It does not also mean that you were intimately involved in the civil rights movement or the abolition movement. You could have been, however, you could just have easily have not have been and fighting the other way. So even that statement wasn't completely factually accurate, is what I'm getting at. Or even that.
Being all murky with your details. We just want to be white. Nobody needs any actual facts, okay?
Right.
Is that I only made $17 million on this movie, and Nicolas Cage made $27 million. So that is where I need women's equality, okay? Need to be equally paid because I had to buy my son a used Maserati instead of the brand new Maserati that I wanted to. Because if I got that additional, just a little bit, of women's equal pay, I would have been able to buy him that Maserati because that is what equal pay is all about, right?
Right. Right. I need to be able to be paid as much as Tom Hanks or Brad Pitt. Right. Yeah. My bad. I'm sorry. I forgot what this was really about. Yeah. I thought it was about equality. My bad.
No. Not at all. Well, I want to give
another note. This is another way in which her there are layers upon layers of which her statement was just completely freaking ridiculous and wrong. However, another one, and this is just, there's so many things that were wrong with what she said. Okay, so she makes this call for pay equity, which is great. Yes, women should be paid the same as men. All women and all men. However, can we get some hiring equity? Because while I'm marching for you to get paid as much as Brad Pitt or Tom Hanks, I don't have a damn job. Okay, let's address that equity. Okay, my problem. Can we address how it's harder to get a job if you are a person of color, or a woman of color, or a woman of color with natural damn hair?
No,
let's just that.
That's not the problem, Mika. No. I need that new Maserati for my son. That is what the problem is. Nobody cares whether or not you brownies can get a job or not. That's not important. We want Oscars to be level playing ground, and they're not.
Level playing ground for white women, because again, let us not forget there were no black nominees. Oh, no. Except for Glory, my bad. Except for the song from Glory.
Not the movie.
Right, not the movie. Not the movie. Yes.
Because we love when you darkies dance and sing, perform, right? Okay.
No, you're sounding angry, Chris.
I'm sorry. I'm not angry.
Your aggression. You're scaring me. You're being offensive and divisive.
I'm sorry. Apologies.
Right. And that's another layer of this whole debacle. Okay, so when people checked her on Twitter, a certain progressive,
right.
Female podcaster, one Miss Nicole Sandler, came to her defense in spectacular fashion.
Yes, absolutely.
An African-American male podcaster, actually, again, pointed out some of the problematic elements with what Arquette said. And this female podcaster, Miss Sandler, took issue with that and attempted to call him on it. And when he politely, again, raised many of the points that we just did, she accused him of what, Chris?
It was so many things.
Right.
Being a racist, a black racist. He was picking a fight. He was attacking her. I believe he called her ma'am, and she said that was specifically he was down talking her by calling her ma'am, and she was offended by the ma'am because it's evident that this is ridiculous. Ma'am? So my children are disrespecting their teacher when they say ma'am. That's what it is. Okay.
Right, exactly.
But we're angry. You're angry about ma'am, but we're angry. Okay.
Right. So now that we've talked about intersectionality and how it is possible to be a woman and a minority, or a woman and gay, or a woman and transsexual and be discriminated against in terms of pay and hiring, now that we've sort of unpacked that.
Wait, and a woman and a racist.
Right, and a woman and a racist, yes.
Right.
Okay, let's talk about privilege for a moment. And I know all of our lighter viewers, some of your heads might have just exploded when I said that.
Right.
Apparently, when a black person says the word privilege,
that's a cuss
word. Race war.
Yes, so, that's a cuss word. There's no such thing as white privilege. We're making that up.
Right. So let us talk for a moment about, again, about this whole conversation about how when a person of color, a prominent person of color, critiques a white person, the person of color doesn't have the freedom to, well, for number one, you don't have the freedom to critique. If you do, you can't sharply critique that person, no matter how valid your critique is.
Because you're angry at that person.
Mm-hmm. Because you're angry and racist and threatening.
Right.
However, the same white person can be just as nasty and threatening as they want to be, and that's okay.
Because if it's white,
my friends,
all right.
Chris, you want to add to that?
If it's white, it's all right. Okay? You can, it doesn't even make sense anymore. So many people fight so hard to explain that there isn't any white privilege. And I think that only further validates that it is. No one, they take the word privilege to mean that you had a silver spoon in your mouth. Nobody's saying that you can't be poor and white and still reap benefits that somebody black couldn't. That's what privilege is. Yes, you were poor, because I believe her response, Patricia Arquette, that is, her response was, I haven't benefited from any white privilege because I grew up poor. That has nothing to do with it. If there was a white child and a black child that grew up in houses next to each other, be they, trailers or dirt huts or whatever, they could have the exact same circumstances. Parents did work at the same plant. We went to the same high school. We did all these same things. If this white person was picked to do something over the black person because they were white, boom, that's privilege. She didn't do anything to receive that privilege other than be white. That's what makes it privilege. No one's saying, oh, well, you were privileged because your parents had a lot of money. No, not at all. In the same instance, you could have middle class, working white and black people, and there still be a certain level of privilege that is allotted to the white person simply because they're white. Again, no one is saying, white people, that you are out here saying, hey, I'm better than all of these blacks and therefore I invoke my privilege. Like, no one's saying that. That's not privilege. That's a whole other gang of racism. But privilege is when you benefit from nothing but your skin color. Period.
Right.
The fact that you can say this woman said these problematic statements and people are coming to her defense. She didn't mean it that way, or she may have misspoken. If a black person stood in the same platform and said, as they're accepting their award, you know what, this is wonderful, but all you crackers needed to get it together. No one's going to say, oh, well, he misspoke. What he really did was.
Right.
Nobody's going to clean that up. It's going to be, oh, how ungrateful. It would go the total opposite direction, and that's white privilege. They're allowed to do things that we aren't. So, like I said, I've listened to so many people, and I won't say the name, but there are a couple of podcasts, maybe you know who, that I've actually unsubscribed to because of their view on the non-existence of white privilege. And it's just irritating. Again, no one is saying that you're purposely trying to benefit from white privilege. Not at all. I know plenty of not so rich non-brown people. But still, there are certain things that they may be afforded, because of the color of their skin, whereas we aren't afforded certain things because of the color of our skin. But anyway.
Right, exactly. So let me just give a few examples of privilege for people who are still confused. So privilege is the ability to go into a mall, any mall, and let's just make it even a little bit narrower, into an expensive store. If you're white, you're there to shop. Nobody's going to follow you around. However, if you are black, count on it. Count on being followed around. Count on possibly having the police called on you simply because you are there and you are black. Period. Exactly. The woman in, what was that? Well, that was near you, Chris. The woman that was, I think she was like a corporate attorney or something.
Oh, absolutely.
And she had the police called on her.
Yes.
Because she went to
Grosse Pointe. She was in a Talbot store. And she walked into the store saying, hey, I want to return this. It is, I bought this last week, but it doesn't fit. Can I find a match? I want to give you the bag. And the lady said, oh, no, it's no big deal. You can keep the bag with you until you're ready to buy something. So someone else saw her carrying a bag in the store while looking for things and proceeded to call the police and say, I have someone that's trying to steal. So when the police arrived, aside from the fact that she told them, well, no, I told the people when I first walked in, this was a bag of their items. You know, I wanted to swap them, and they told me to keep the bag. Why would they call the police on me? Well, someone else called the police. But come to find out, I believe she was actually an attorney fighting for civil rights in Michigan. So it was a wonderful segue into just how, you know, existent racism still is for, you know, just going to the store. You know, and to be honest, Mika, we can actually tie in one of our docket stories to this white privilege, connecting our favorite family, Kylie Jenner and Zendaya Coleman. Kylie had some locks in her hair, and a few people, newscasters, and, you know, oh, she's making a statement, and this is, you know, oh, it's so chic, and she's trying something new, and this is wonderful, you know, whereas Zendaya Coleman wore locks, and I don't know.
That's the African American actress.
Yes. She wore locks to the Oscars, and Juliana, what's her last name? Rancic, said that she probably smelled like patchouli and weed. Not that it was chic, you know, not that it was cool or she looked beautiful, but that she probably smelled like patchouli and weed. That's white privilege. You know, number one, I saw Kylie's locks, and aside from the fact they looked terrible, they looked dirty, you know, but Zendaya's were beautiful. They, you know, they were freshly done. She looked beautiful in what she had on, and she looked very nice. It was no way in the world I would have looked at her and said, yep, patchouli and weed there. You know, it really didn't make any sense, but that's a perfect example. The absolute same hairstyle on a black person promotes negative comments. On this white girl promotes chicness and, you know, her ability, because she's a model, she can roll with the times and do this and do that. Really? You got all of that from some locks? You know? Right. And I would also like to say, while we are, you know, talking about it, so many people say dreadlocks. And that's really a term that should be let go of, you know.
Expand on this. Yeah, go ahead.
You know, I learned years and years ago that the term in general did not come from people who wear them. You know, it came from English and French settlers that landed in places like Haiti, and they called them dreadful locks because they saw the native people's hair, and that's the way that it was, and they saw it as dreadful. So it didn't become dreadlocks because that's what we came up with or what Haitians or Islanders came up with. It was actually labeled negatively. So that's why you hear a lot of people say locks instead of dreadlocks.
Dreadlocks is actually an insult. It's a pejorative.
Exactly. It's a negative statement. So a lot of people don't know that, and so most people don't get upset about it. But if you do know about it, you know, then it's better to just say locks, you know. But even still, Zendaya, I thought she looked gorgeous, you know, hair or not. You know, I think she's a pretty girl. But even with her hair, and she was beautiful. You know, she looked very nice, very well put together. She didn't have her body parts hanging out. You know, there was nothing sheer on her. She looked very appropriate for the evening. And the fact that Juliana would make such a ridiculous comment as the quote-unquote fashion police on the runway, even if that's your opinion, you know, there's a time and place for everything. I think that Joan Rivers is probably the only person who could get away with certain ridiculousness, you know. But Joan Rivers came from a totally different era. And, you know, this day and time, that's not acceptable. It's just, you know, it's just not. Now, I did hear that Juliana made a heartfelt apology on air regarding her comments, and her, you know, stating that her intent was not that. She was, you know, referring to the whole chic bohemian movement, and which, again, for the chic bohemians out there, it was still an insult. You know, assuming that all bohemians smoke weed and rub patchouli on them, you know what I mean? You're still being insulting, not even for just black people, but again, anyone who recognizes or, you know, identifies himself as a bohemian chic person should be mad too, you know. But at the end of it, she tried some slick shit and it went wrong, you know. So
got fired. She is now no longer on Fashion Police.
So. Great. Okay. Well, I heard that her apology was nice, you know, and I also read Zendaya's comeback, you know, which it
was very classy, I thought.
Very classy. Very classy. She didn't go too hard. I mean, she went in, but it was very educated, you know, and it was definitely a way to let someone know, you know, you don't have to talk like that. You don't have to be like that. You could have just roll with the punches, you know. But again, that's a perfect example of white privilege.
Right, exactly. So there you go. And anyone who wants more examples, feel free to let us know. I will happily give you some, because again, we see it happen all the time. I mean, I think you could even make the argument that, you know, it's a lack of privilege as to why Michael Brown is no longer with us,
Exactly.
and why Trayvon Martin is no longer with us, and why their killers are free.
Exactly. Because they weren't brown, you know.
Because they weren't brown, and because their killers, because their killers weren't brown, and because they were.
Exactly.
Period.
Now, you know,
because an African American teenager can't walk down the street without being suspected of criminal activity.
Without being threatening, because we're so threatening.
Right, exactly. Without even being considered threatening, simply because they are there.
Exactly.
So,
now, you know, to my other topic is also a version of white privilege. The news anchor who was making comments about Lady Gaga.
Mm-hmm.
And her performance at the Oscars. Now, let me just say this. I've never really been a huge Lady Gaga fan, but she's been looking rather cute lately, okay? I don't know if it's the engagement or what, but she has really been looking really nice. But because I didn't see the performance, I have no idea how good or bad she sounded, but I heard she sounded really wonderful.
I think she did a medley from The Sound of Music or something like that.
Okay. So, okay, well, she, you know, she looked nice. But this news anchor, let me see, what is her name? Christy Capel.
Mm-hmm.
And her co-anchor, who is brown, Wayne Dawson, while they were, you know, doing their little portion about the Oscars, they played this clip, and Christy went ahead and said, well, you know, I didn't know that she had such a nice voice. It's so hard to, you know, actually hear her voice with all that jigaboo music playing behind her. No. Okay.
I'm sorry. With the what music?
And I haven't heard that word in so long. When I played the video, I was like, okay, wait, let me play that again, because I know that's not what she said. She didn't say that. So I played it again, and I'm like, oh yeah, she said it. Okay, well, and I'm looking at the brown man that's next to her, and him kind of nodding nervously, you know. And I was at a loss, you know. So reading the story, she apologized and she didn't know what the word meant. And again, that's white privilege, because I promise you, if a young African American news anchor in turn sat there and said, you know, Lady Gaga really cleans up good for a redneck honky, I am pretty sure he would not be making an apology and, you know, just getting a 3-day suspension. I doubt it. And there's no way that person could have also said, I didn't know that redneck honky was a bad word. I didn't know it was a bad word. I'm sorry. Is it a bad word? Oh, who knows?
That's another example of privilege. The ability to be a casual racist and an unwitting casual racist. I find it hard to believe that she didn't know what that term meant.
There's no way she did.
I find it hard to believe.
Assuming
she didn't.
But even if you assume that she didn't, she knew enough to give it a negative connotation.
Exactly.
So, you know, saying that I didn't know what it meant, I just knew it meant something bad. You know, really? So what bad did you think it meant? You know? So again, nobody believes your little white apology. I really don't. You know, and I mean, like I said, I told one of my coworkers who asked me, she was just like, well, you know, well, do you think that's white privilege? And she is not brown. And I told her exactly what I just told you. I said, if someone called Lady Gaga some not so flavorful white names and they were brown, I'm pretty sure they would just be fired, period. There would be no apology. They wouldn't have a Twitter account anymore. They would probably disappear. You know, there wouldn't be oh, I'm so sorry, please, you know, or like Mika and I like to, you know, jump on the hashtag white women's tears, because for whatever reason, when white women say something extra racist, they get back on TV and cry. It's like, oh, the cleansing tears of Jesus. Okay, we forgive you because you really didn't mean it, and we can see that because you're crying. So yes, okay, she didn't mean
your tears mean something. Mine don't, but yours do.
They wash away everything, kind of like Jesus. You know what I'm saying? They just wash your racism away with these white women's tears. You know, I'm happy that Juliana apologized, but again, your tears mean nothing, ma'am. Just apologize. You said some messed up junk. Okay, there it is. But it's like, you know, why is it, oh, she got on TV and she cried, and we're just supposed to be like, oh, well, that did it there. Yes, she meant that. Okay, she cried. I know she meant it. Really? Really? My kids cry all the time when they get in trouble. Mm-hmm. Those tears don't faze me. It's like you start crying.
Privilege. That's yet another privilege, another example of privilege. The ability to instantly call on this wellspring of sympathy and empathy because you shed a few tears after you do something completely frickin' ridiculous.
Completely.
That is yet another example, my friends, of privilege. We probably should have called this episode Privilege 101 because I feel like
we are truly in privilege.
Right. So like that's yet another example of privilege is if you are Caucasian and female, there is a general wealth of sympathy and goodwill that is just waiting for you. Just waiting for you. And you can call on it at will. So when you say something unwittingly racist or unwittingly exclusionary or unwittingly just wrong, factually wrong, and theoretically wrong,
right,
all you have to do is shed a few tears and the world will come to your defense. Right. And anyone who critiques you is a bully and mean and a reverse racist.
Didn't you say that?
I'm quite sure that we are actually getting labeled racist right now.
Yes, absolutely.
Congratulations for that. But like I'm pretty sure
some of my best friends are white.
I'm sorry?
Some of my best friends are white.
Right. Mine too. But I'm pretty sure that there are people out there right now labeling us racist because we have the audacity to critique everyday injustices that happen to us. But by us calling it out, we're racist. Yes. We're divisive.
Exactly.
So as a brown person, as a white person, it's your job to do whatever the hell you want and say whatever the hell you want. But as a black person, it is your job to shut up and don't make waves.
Exactly.
That, again, is another form of privilege. Exactly. I don't even have the luxury to check you when you do something wrong. No. Think about that for a second. Patricia Arquette said some some really messed up things on the Oscars. And nobody can check her. Nobody. Even though we have proven what she said was wrong. And nobody's attacking her. I don't think she's a bad person. I don't even think she's a racist. I think she's got some skewed ideas of reality. Like I feel like she lives in her own very distinct reality that is perhaps a little bit separate from everyday people and certainly everyday brown people. And yes, I know that she does the whole liberal thing and she's got charities and all that, and nobody's taking any of that away from her.
Who gonna check me, boo?
But she said something extremely problematic, and people rightfully called her on it. And the people who called her on it were immediately labeled reverse racist. And that's, I'm sorry, forgive my language, but that's bullshit. That does not make me a racist because I call her out on some racist things she says.
Yes, it does. Didn't you see that white woman crying?
Right. I'm sorry. Yes. White women tears. I'm sorry.
Well, you know, like I said, who gonna check me, boo? Okay, I can say whatever I want.
So even the luxury of getting angry, rightfully angry, brown people don't have that. You know what I'm saying? If police stop you and harass you, you can't question them as to why you're being stopped and harassed because you just might die. That is privilege.
But, you know, we're just making that up because we like to make waves.
Right, exactly.
Even, you know, around that. I think Nicole Sandler brought up a ridiculous point to the African-American caster. She said, you know, well, do I blame, you know, my problems on, you know, Hitler, you know, my family's problems, you know, with the Holocaust. I don't blame anything that happens to me negatively on, you know, Hitler and blah, blah, blah. Well, you know what? That's a problem, ma'am. Okay, because you live in this country. Hitler doesn't run anything here. Okay? So although, yes, the Holocaust was terrible, nobody is taking that away from anybody. Yes, it was a terrible event. However, you're not now living under Hitler's cousin's reign. You know, black people are still living under the ancestors of those who oppressed us. So there's not an equal comparison. Not at all. You know.
In fact, Dr. King even spoke about this. Oh gosh, I wish I could find the link, but actually he was doing an interview, and the interviewer asked him about this, about how African Americans were lagging as far as overcoming the effects of slavery and racism, and why African Americans were lagging in that, compared to, say, descendants of Holocaust victims. And he said, quite simply, those Holocaust victims were able to integrate. They were given the benefit of their whiteness to become a member of this dominant society. Black people were not.
Not at all.
And I mean, that is a very valid point. Like, you know, you had the chance to throw off that which oppressed you.
Yes, and we can't. And if we bring up any problems with, you know, the ancestors of the oppressors,
right,
we're wrong.
Right, then we're the problem. Exactly.
And we have to just move on.
Right, because we're perpetuating racism by pointing out that we didn't perpetuate racism. Exactly. It's the craziest thing. It's so bizarre. Like, no other group gets slapped with that. Nobody. No, because again, nobody faulted her when she brought up the Holocaust, even though we weren't talking about the Holocaust
at all.
But nobody faulted her for that. But if I dare bring up slavery or civil rights, then I'm being divisive.
Yes. And you're beating a dead horse. We're over slavery, remember? You know?
Right. I'm sorry. I forgot when President Obama was elected in 2008, slavery ended. I'm sorry. I forgot.
We got a black president. You guys need to let that go. Only the one president who has been publicly, you know, just embarrassed and accosted and made fun of and, you know, completely disrespected almost his entire term. Both of them.
Right. And has an entire Congress whose sole job is to stifle him. Like, that's it. Like, they had a meeting, and I'm not making this up. There's a group of conservative Republicans who met the day after his inauguration and formed an agenda with one objective. I'll give you a guess as to what that objective was.
We're going to say no to Obama. Everything. Say no to everything.
Exactly. Exactly.
1, 2, 3, 4, no.
Exactly. And I'm not making that up. That's not hyperbole. That is actual fact.
Yes.
So, yeah, this is how we treat our first African-American president.
Yes.
In 2008. It took us how many years to get? Okay. But there's no more racism.
Now, Nika, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, as if we haven't had enough. But as much as I am relishing in excitement to talk about Kindred, I actually have to go.
Right. Yeah. We didn't get to Kindred this week. We're going to put off our book club till next week.
Yes.
So if you haven't finished the book, you got another week. Yay.
Yeah. And I would be included in that extra week because I have like a chapter or so left, and I'm trying, people.
Get together, Negro. I'm just kidding.
Where are my white women's tears?
We fought for you. We taught you how to read.
Can I spray them on? Okay. Let me get some locks. You know what I'm saying? Let me get some locks so I cry. I'm sorry I didn't finish the book. I'm so sorry I didn't finish the book. Please don't hold it against me. It wasn't on purpose. My intention was to uphold all African American authors, not just that.
Oh, goodness. All right. Well, yes, this was definitely a loaded episode.
Loaded.
It's not our fault that the world went crazy this week. So, yeah, we will put off our discussion of Kindred till next week.
Yes. Sorry, this is the last week of Black History Month.
I'm sorry?
This is the last week of Black History Month, and it was loaded with racism.
Exactly. I know, right? What is it with Black History Month that makes people go crazy?
Oh, whole 28 days. The shortest month, but still.
Right.
That's the one we got, so I'm not complaining. Okay.
Right. So we'll discuss Kindred next week, And in the meantime, enjoy your dinner outing.
Yes.
And we will see all of our viewers next week. Hopefully same time. Sorry about that. I know we got started late this week. Same time, same channel.
Yes.
Bye.